Hello, everyone. I'm going to begin a new lesson now. Um, I thought I would keep it under a theme for this one. We're going to do color schemes. So I'm going to go over quickly some basic color schemes, and then we're going to try to apply it to Pixlr, and then eventually we will upload them onto your Google Sites format. Okay. So the first thing is, as you can see here, I just downloaded an image of a color wheel. And if you've had any basic classes, art classes, or sometimes people just being in different types of classes, you'll talk about color. And so there you have your basic color wheel. Your primaries are yellow, blue, and red. Your secondaries are green and violet and orange. But the big color schemes that we tend to use are complementary colors, analogous colors, and triadic colors. So your complementary colors tend to be the yellow. It's on the color wheel. The complement means it's just across from or opposite of it. So yellow and violet, and then blue and orange, and then green and red. So you see them all the time, the complements. So I have samples here. So I think this is pretty cool to see an orange, this type of an orange next to something that's a blue, that complement like that. Or when you're seeing the reds and all these kind of this is more of an orange and a blue also. And if I'm scrolling down, I'm just seeing all kinds of different examples of using those complements. When you see them next to each other, they tend to go pretty well. A lot of times the sports teams will use those, whether this is kind of a Miami Dolphins concept. All kinds of different things use them, and you just don't think about them. But when you see samples of them, complementary colors, right? And then if we go back, the next ones will be analogous. And analogous colors are something that has, like an analogy, has something in common. So there's three sets of analogous colors. The yellow set, the blue set, and the red set. So the yellow set is green, yellow, and orange, these three. And then the red set is orange, red, and violet. And then there's blue, green, and violet, because they all have blue in them. These all have red in them. These all have yellow in them. And again, they're down here. I tried to show little samples of them, analogous colors. So the samples again are having something like this. Now these are very unique together. Sometimes you'll see it. I always bring up like a leprechaun images tend to be analogous concepts, but you'll see them all the time. And I do like when I do see some of them that they really, your eye is caught by them and you can't help but see, that there's some type of a balance going on when you see them, right? So I try to show a couple of those. And then the last ones are triadic. And the triadic colors tend to be like that yellow, blue, and red. And you're just moving across, making your triangle. And again, I have samples down here of the triadic. But the sample image that I would use is the triadics like this. And images like this, you think of Superman, that's basically a triadic color scheme, yellow, red, and blue. But then there are these variations off of it. And when you see them, you really do, there's a part of it that they just are very well balanced and you can use them for lots of different things. Okay, so these are our basics that we're going to be using, those kind of three. Again, I have them all down here and I'll attach this to the assignment. So the next thing is how we're going to apply this into Pixlr. So in Pixlr, what I did here is, for example, I found an image of Spider-Man. He's being very close to a triadic. But let's just say I wanted to do a complementary image with Spider-Man, with him in the foreground, with this kind of red overall suit, because there's blue in here and everything too. But a red overall suit with a background that's just a basic multiple colors back there. And then what would you use for that? So I have I have Spider-Man in the foreground. I have the cityscape in the back. I'm going to scroll up to see the adjustment. I'm going to go to hue and saturation. Now on hue and saturation, when you're in here, if you go into it, you can adjust all of your colors. So what I want to try to do is get this into some kind of a greenish background. Doesn't mean that it has to be an overall really heavy green, but something that it's more forced onto being green, because the complement of red is green. So already what you'll see here is see how it really does pop with these two colors. And again, I'm not doing that much to it. I can go into my hue and saturation and adjust it and get it to whatever I want to. And this is kind of the look that I'm having. So when you do this specific one, try to find something, maybe cut out an image. It could be some specific character or whatever. And I used my lasso tool. I used my magic wand. I used my eraser tool for this one to get them out of there. This is a pretty famous picture, an image from the movie. And then I just went in the back and I found this cityscape originally. And I would just save this, and this would be using complementary colors, right? Another example is this, where I'm using line art, and I'm coloring the line art this time. So the original image looked like this. Let me take this off. So all it was line art, which we've done before in Photoshop. You take a piece of line art and you bring it over, and then instead of allowing this just to be like this, I want you to color it. So what I did was I brought it over here, so I just have a separate layer here. So here's the top layer, and what I did was I added a layer underneath. So if I'm on this one here, if you can see where I am on the side, if I'm here, I can add as many layers as I want to on this image. And if I go all the way here, and I'm going to add a layer, it's going to say empty, and I go okay. So I have an empty layer, it's way up here, and I want to put it underneath the image. Okay, it's going to be underneath there. And the only way you can see through it, because right now this image looks like this, but if I go over here and I click onto these three dots, click on the three dots, you can see there's a blend mode. And in the blend mode, if there was no blend mode, it's just a black and white image that's there. But what I did was in the blend mode, I went and I put darken on. So darken allows me to just see through that image. And then if I'm below it, over here, what I did was I colorized all of this underneath. Now, these are not the exact colors for the characters. And so what I tried to do was I would go in and I wanted to make this a triadic color, so orange, yellow, and green. And they're all variations off of it. And even the skin tone is kind of a little bit of an orange, and the bag is this kind of yellowish. This is kind of that deeper orange, almost looks brown. And a background that I have pretty much is green. And I think it works really nicely. It looks nice as an image. I could have added a background to it and gone further. And I hope that in some of these pieces that's what you'll do, because we have plenty of time to do them. Okay, so this is the sample of it. And again, you'll just export these things and you'll put them into your Google Drive. All right, so between this piece or this piece, that's two. And really what I want you to do are three separate images like this, so that you get the hang of doing this idea, which is taking color schemes and trying to do some different things with them. So perhaps the best way to think about this is you're going to do three of them. One using complementary colors. One doing this analogous colors. This is analogous, yellow, orange, and green. And then maybe one doing the triadic. Again, foreground, background. I'd like one of them, at least one of your images, to use this technique where you're colorizing the line art though. So one will just be line art that's colored using a color scheme. It could be one of the three major ones that we use. Or you could use one of these others for these, and there'll be two separate pieces. I did two separate sizes here. This is a square format. It's about 1,000 by 1,000. I think this one was a typical 1920 by 1080, whatever that basic size was. And they have different looks. And you're going to save these things as JPEGs or export them as that separate image and throw them into your docs. And then I want you to make a separate page on your Google Sites to have a page that's just colors. So you would add a page, call it colors, and then display all of the three things that you're doing. Then you'll share with me your URL so I can see it. Okay, so I hope all this makes sense. There's a lot of things to think about with this, but I think it's interesting, and the more you think about your color, the more interesting some of your work is going to look. All right, thanks. See you soon.